Hello, welcome back to another Toyota 3.4 swap video. This 3.4 swap is moving much faster than I expected. On the last video, I showed you guys how to remove the 3.0 out of the 94X cab 5-speed. During the last 2 days, I got my harness done already. John is local and he's a good buddy. He's a good 3.4 swap guru as well. One of my biggest mentor during my 3.4 swap journey. So I dropped it off a couple days ago and he got it all done already. So right now the harness is done. We're still waiting on a few more parts and then this engine is ready to be dropped in. So my apologies in advance. I didn't have any time to film myself refreshing this motor, but I'll talk about it. It's pretty easy, nothing hard to do, guys. I just went ahead and did a simple refresh. I usually like to do head gasket on the 3.4 before we drop it in, even if it's not bad. But in this case, this is a budget-friendly swap, and I want to show you guys that you can do this on a good budget if you kind of do it the way I do it. So this motor was out of the 96 4Runner that we bought from the auction. I got it running. I ran it for over an hour in my garage. Didn't overheat, didn't tick, didn't make any kind of noise, anything like that. So I tore this engine down all the way before you get to the head gasket. Went ahead and resealed the oil pan. We use a 3.0 oil pan and also the 3.0 oil pickup tube. You have to cut one of the legs. You'll figure it out once you get to it. We went ahead and reused a Toyota oil pump. I usually like to put a new one, but in this case we're going with a little bit budget friendly. So I went ahead and reused a Toyota oil pump, went ahead and cleaned it really good, put all new RTV. There is a special O-ring on the oil pump, so make sure you get that OEM stuff. I'll put a link in the video description of all the 3.4 swap info. And I also updated the 3.4 swap PDF guide, so you guys can download the guide and also a 3.4 swap parts list listing most of the OEM parts or parts that you need. So make sure you guys check the video description. We went ahead and put a new good timing belt, put a new water pump, ASIN water pump, kept the oil cooler. Usually I do the oil cooler to delete, but again, we're saving some money. Kept the oil cooler. Went ahead and put a new thermostat, new O-ring as well, new front main seal, and we kept the, these are the 3.0 engine mounts. You have to use the 3.0 engine mount. Bolts on directly. The dipstick has been relocated to the side of the block. This is a 96 engine, so the hole is already drilled. You just have to pop out that tap that's blocking it. And then you have to get a dipstick union. I had one in stock already and I installed that. And then the dipstick, I had one that's made, the dipstick on the side is from a T100 3.4 engine. So if you guys are looking for the part number, search it up under a T100 3.4. I had one from my other engine already, so I just took this one out and cleaned it up. Put a new O-ring on the end of the dipstick. There's an O-ring that seats in there. Put a new one. And then that's pretty much it. Check the valve clearance. They're all good. New valve cover gasket, spark plug tube. New spark plugs, Denso spark plugs. And then we also open up the main plenum. Replace the knock sensor harness with a Dorman brand. I didn't go with the Toyota ones. And then I put new intake gaskets. Those gaskets are usually the expensive ones, so I put new gaskets on those. And then the main plenum, where the fuel injector they all sit on, that's been cleaned. I went ahead and sent the injectors to Injector Masters, so we will be waiting for that, about a week turnaround time. So we're gonna get some. So our used injector is gonna be refreshed. So as of right now, we don't need to do anything. Power steering stay the way it is. I'm not gonna install the alternator yet because I like to keep the alternator out, because when you install this engine, if you leave the alternator out, you have a little bit more room to bolt the engine mount on the driver's side. So it's up to you. You can do which way you want. An alternator is really easy to install once the engine's in the engine bay. So right now we need to do the rear main seal, we went ahead and got a new LUK flywheel from Napa. And then we also went ahead and ordered a new ASIN 3.0 clutch. So in this case, you can use either 3.0 flywheel with 3.0 clutch, or you can use a 3.4 flywheel with a 3.4 clutch. It doesn't matter. Either one's fine. The 3.4 is like slightly a few centimeters larger, but the biggest difference is that you're saving money. There's about a $50 to $60 difference in cost. So in this case, I went with the 3.0. The reason why I went with the 3.0 is, if you guys watched my last couple videos where I swapped the engine out on that 3.4 truck that I had from a customer, he was running a 3.0 clutch, and I test drove his vehicle, and man, it drove just as good as the 3.4 in my opinion. So I don't really notice a difference as far as getting a bigger 3.4 clutch. All my 3.4 trucks that I've done, I am running 3.4 clutch. But in this case, we're on a budget, guys. We're going not cheap, but we're going on a budget. So ASIN clutch is on the way from Amazon. It'll be here by this weekend, so we can't slap that on yet. So right now, we just need to do the rear wing seal, flywheel, bolt the clutch on. I have a crossover already, so the crossover needs to be modified so that it dumps onto the driver's side. I have one already, so we'll slap that on, and then once all that's in place, we can go ahead and drop this engine in, slap on the harness, and then one of the, I think when it comes to the 3.4 swap, one of the part that I don't enjoy is building the exhaust. It's not hard to build the exhaust, but gosh, it just takes so much time. It's nearly about half day for me because I don't have an engine lift or a car lift or anything like that. I'm doing it on the floor, so you have to crawl under, measure, cut, weld, measure, cut, weld, etc., etc. So I really don't enjoy doing the exhaust stuff, but I will have to do that. I still have to torque the crank bolt in. I'll do that once I take the engine out of the engine stand here. So that's pretty much it, guys. It's pretty easy, self-explanatory. And everything that I did is a refresh. So honestly, if you were trying to go cheap, a down and dirty drop-in, you don't have to do what I did. Like if you were going super cheap, you could have just kept the oil pump in place. You could have just kept the timing belt in place if it was still decent, the water pump in place. You could just kept the knock sensor harness already in place if you wanted to. The least you can do is at least change the valve cover, because we all know those things are always leaking. So this is just a quick refresh besides head gasket job. I went ahead and cleaned my upper and lower intake bodies already, intake manifolds. I also went ahead and put a new throttle body gasket. I cleaned the throttle body, and I also cleaned the IAC valve. Make sure you guys do that, because if you guys don't do that, you guys might have some issues with high idles or something along that line. So on top of this, I also want to show you guys my harness that John built. He's been building all my harness for all my swap besides my first swap. My first swap that I did, I went with a toy-only swap adapter. They're a great company. They did a great job. But after learning about John and his work, I just like what John does, and I just like his work. So what he does is you give him the 3.4 original harness that I told you guys about, and then you also give him your truck that's getting swapped. Remember when I told you guys to cut the piece between the power steering on the 3.0 and keep all that? You give them that to him. He'll strip down your 3.4 harness, repin whatever that needs to be done, wraps it up, and it's super nice. I'm gonna show you what it is. Now please don't ask me question in the comment section on how to do harness, because I don't know anything about harness. So if you guys are gonna ask me, hey, how do I plug in this button and this wire, trust me, I don't know. I'm not the guy to talk about. I'm not an electrical guru. I don't want to deal with it. In my opinion, it's confusing to me. If I was to learn it one day, I would have to at least dedicate a good amount of my time to learn about this electrical stuff. But let me show you the harness and see how awesome it is and how simple it is once you dumb it down. Let's give you guys a quick walk around real quick on the engine. I say everything has mostly been refreshed, re-cleaned. Some few couple new parts and stuff like that. This is the 3.0 oil pressure sensor unit. That's why I told you guys to keep that. 3.0 engine mount, Stock 3.4 oil cooler. This is a T100 dipstick. Valve cover, everything's been resealed, RTV. A good timing belt has been put in place. Power steering pump, kept it the way it is. This is the 3.0 banjo bolt. It's been cleaned with the 2 washer. I like to put a zip tie so it doesn't fall off. We'll go ahead and install this later once we get the engine in. We're using the old coil packs with the old used good wires. New knock sensor harness. We put a new PCV valve with a new ground bit because those are always bad. They're super cheap and affordable. New spark plug as well. Didn't have to remove the exhaust manifold, so kept them in place. And then we're also using all the coolant hose here. They're still good. These are the one that goes to the throttle body. This one here goes to the IAC. This is the main plenum that's been cleaned with new gasket. And like I say, we open this up to access the knock sensor harness, which is something I recommend you guys do. I don't ever replace the knock sensor itself because I've never had an issue where they go back. Pretty simple. Rear main seal, pilot bearing, clutch, all that will be installed later once the parts comes in. And like I say, intake manifold has been cleaned. New throttle body gasket. Throttle body has been cleaned. IAC has been cleaned. This bracket right here bolts from the top up originally. You want to take this bracket, put on the bottom, and bolt it from the bottom up. It gives you that extra clearance so it doesn't rub on the hood. Super simple. Take a look at this beautiful harness piece of art right here. I will tell you and talk about this harness and how simple it is once you lay this on your engine. Everything is so clean. You guys remember when we took this harness off of the 3.4 engine, all the plastic cover is all broken, it's all yucky, oily. And like I said, this is John's work. He cleans it up. He puts new seals or he retapes it up and all that fun stuff. And it just makes it so much easier. So keep in mind, guys, we have a 94 5-speed pickup. We are not doing cruise control. We are not doing AC. We are doing manual hubs, so no ADD stuff. And then we are also keeping the catalytic converter. So those are some things you do have to keep in mind. If you were keeping those, your harness might be slightly different, but not much of a difference. But check how easy and how simple this harness is. Obviously, this is the main piece where the harness will sit in the engine. But let's start from the end over here. At the end over here, you have a long piece. This goes to your speed sensor and down towards your transmission. So usually you have your speed sensor. I forgot which one it is, but one of these is your 4x4 and one of them is your reverse. Super simple, goes on the transmission, you can't miss them. And then you have this wire that goes down to the starter. We call it the starter trigger. This whole section right here goes through your firewall where you put your ECU. So this is the 3.4 ECU. And you guys remember when we pulled this ECU out from the 4Runner, we had 3 from the main harness and 1 that we had to cut. So you can see that one of them has been tapped into the main harness as a whole now. And then you guys remember we had to pull the 2 body plugs off of the 3.0 truck. And now you can see it's been tapped into the main harness. So all of this goes into the truck on the kick panel. And like I said, super awesome. John, he does a great job of labeling it as well. So in the future, if you have to go troubleshoot something, you can see it. Now, don't comment down below. Tell me, hey, what's that wire right there? Because I'm not going to tell you guys. And then with the 3.4 swap, you now have a OBD2. So you can plug in your scanner, check what's going on with the check engine light, something like that. Or you can kind of plug in one of those modules where it'll tell you your temperature, your voltage, RPM, speed, etc. So that's one of the nice features. You have OBD2 now. And then you have your ECU as well. We are using the 4Runner. This is an auto, but it works So like I said, this is an auto harness, but it still works with a 5-speed vehicle. We will have a couple check engine lights on. When you use the auto, you're gonna have a few check engine lights that will tell you things that's coming on that's automatic related, but that's not a big deal. We're not gonna worry about that. All right. This right here will go to your passenger fender. You have your igniter as well, and then you have your MAF. Simple enough. Over here is your passenger cylinder head. You have your 3 coil packs. 1, 2, 3. You have your this is your cam sensor, your engine coolant temperature sensor, and then your knock sensor. And then you have your injectors. 1, 2, 3. And then you have your throttle body position sensor, and one that is your IAC. Simple enough. On the far back of the firewall, you have this one plug, which is that one single pin plug. This is your temperature for your coolant. It tells you how hot, how cold your coolant is. We then run into your driver's side injectors. You have a ground wire. This ground wire goes onto the intake manifold on the side of it. Simple enough, right? And then this piece right here is 3 plugs. These go to your 3.4 evap box. So you have your 3 plugs on the evap box. You can't mix them up because they are different, so you'll know which goes to which. Simple enough. And then as we go down here, we move onto your oil pressure sensor unit right there by the oil filter. And then right below that, you have your crank sensor all the way down by the crank. And then you have this piece right here that's gonna crawl through the driver's side, and all this is just your simple 021, 022, upstream, downstream. Simple enough, guys. Look how amazing that is. And then obviously you have your original harness on your 3.0 truck that goes to the alternator and the simple stuff. So like I said, that's all simple stuff. So besides the harness here, you still have to use the hot wire from the battery to the starter, and also the battery negative to the block of the engine. Lots of ways of doing it. You can build your own, or you can use the original 3.4 wires. And then you also have to build one hot wire from your fuse box, the alternator fuse box, down to a hot power source, which you can run down to the starter, or you run it back to the hot terminal on the battery. So that's it, guys. Wiring is pretty simple. That is going to wrap up this video. The next video you guys gonna see is probably me installing this engine. I'm not gonna film myself installing the rear main seal, flywheel, and clutch. That's all easy stuff. If you guys got this far down in the swap, you guys can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. So the next video you're gonna see, like I said, we're likely gonna drop this engine into the engine bay. I do still have to prep the engine bay, so I'll probably make another video about that, even though I've done a video about that already. So make sure you guys check out all my 3.4 swap playlist videos. There's a lot of stuff, but trust me, you'll find something out of the video. So yes, I do still have to prep up the engine bay. Unfortunately, it is winter. If I was able to use my pressure washer, I would definitely pressure wash the engine bay because it is kind of dirty, dirt and grime, stuff like that, but it is what it is. So like I say, hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you guys next time. Stay up to date on the project. Instagram, NuttyNu_4x4. See you guys next time.